we're going to be talking about the PR process. We covered it early on in the semester, and we're coming up to the point where you are presenting the campaign you've worked on to the entire class. You are turning in a printed RPI, and you're making a verbal presentation of what you either are proposing would be a good campaign or saying was a good campaign and you've run it. So I want to walk you through what should be present, what it should look like, kind of cover those areas so you're prepared. On the board, we're going to go through a lot of different details. Obviously, you can see we have the 4 basic parts: research, programming, implementation, evaluation. That should be almost mundane to you at this point. It's just kind of how you order the information that you're presenting. But within that, there's certain things you should consider. So I'm going to go through those 4 parts. Then we'll talk about ways you can display it, what should be included in the printed part, what should be included in your overall presentation. When you're thinking of your research, you need to consider what kind of research did you do to determine the campaign that you're running or that you're proposing. And again, that research could be qualitative or quantitative. We covered that. Or primary or secondary. Some people will really want to include, hey, we did surveys or we had survey research. Other people may do a situational analysis. Some people really just get SWOT analysis and they want to have that. Whatever research you had should be in your research section. And I can't overestimate that enough. So many times people come and say, here's our plan. But it's really hard to determine how you picked that plan if you never show your research. And research can include talking to the client, emails that you had, conversations that you had, phone calls that you had. It can include research that they had done previously that they provided to you. It could include archival research, things that were in the news. It can include details you did on websites. So for example, when I go into a client meeting and I'm making not an academic presentation similar to what you will do, but switching it into a client pitch, I always tell them the research I did, and I include images. So if you did research on their website and that's how you found out who they are and what their vision is and how long they've been around, I take screenshots of their website and I say, here's the area we got it. You can pop that into something like Keynote or PowerPoint. So it's easy to put an image on one section and kind of put some information on the other side about what you pulled out. But somehow you have to display where you got your information. So that is all in research. And all of your research, everything you find, leads up to your problem or your situation statement. That is the capstone to your research that says, here's what's going on and how we need to move forward. So again, if you recall, the situation or problem statement, opportunity statement, if you will, is not suggesting a solution. It's simply saying what's going on. So there's a lack of awareness due to limited staff and inability to reach media. Or there is opportunity to gain more brand awareness through the launch of their new product. Something like that. It doesn't say what the solution is, just what's happening. What did you find out and where is it going to take place? Is it internal? Is it external? Is it relating to a specific department? So you do your research section and at the end, very clearly, you make a problem or situation statement. Then you can move on to your programming. So any questions on your research section? Any qualms with what to include, how to include it, any of that? Yeah.
How would you like this to be formatted? Can it just be, do you want, essay type thing?
Yeah.
Paragraphs? Okay.
That's a great question. Formatting is, I like interesting. There's so many ways you can do it. I don't want to confine you too limited. I have several examples that I'm going to show you guys, but we'll cover like cover, intro, all of that. I would recommend colors, images, breakdowns of sections. So I'll show that and we'll go over it. That's a good point. When you section after research, you get into your program section, you're going to start off with your goal statement. The goal statement is big picture, where are you headed? There's no measurements, there's no timeline, there's nothing like that in a goal statement. Goal statement is, if everything in the world goes perfectly, where are we going to end up? So for example, again, Biola University wants to be a leader in Christian thought, right? That's big picture. That's where they want to end up if everything's going perfectly. That's their goal. Then campaigns will have objectives, strategies, and tactics that feed into that hopefully move you forward towards that end goal for a client. So a goal is very, very broad. And then you get into an objective. I'm guessing your campaigns will have 1 to 2 objectives. You don't really want like 5 or 6 objectives. At this stage, that would really kind of kill you, trying to get everything in there. But an objective guides everything. It says, here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to say whether it was effective. Here's how we're going to evaluate it. So an objective has to be SMART. Anyone remember what SMART stood for? Yeah, you guys came up. Yeah. Perfect. I love it, because otherwise it sounds like I'm being really mean when I'm saying SMART. So once we reach the stage where we're all on the same terms, yes, SMART objectives. So you have a SMART objective that's followed by strategies and tactics. So here's an example of what that looks like. Objective 1, increase awareness in Biola students about registration by 50% by April 30th. That gives me a date. It gives me a specific population. It gives me a measurement. It gives me what I'm doing. So it's specific, measurable, achievable, hopefully, realistic, and timely. That is a solid objective that fits the measurement of SMART. And in my layout, in my report, one of the elements of it will be looking like this. So I'll show you how different people lay it out. But underneath objective 1, which would probably be in bold, then you state your objective. Underneath that, you're going to have strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3. And underneath the strategies, the tactics that relate. One of the biggest confusion points that I usually see in Intro to PR is that you list all of your objectives, and then you list all of your strategies, and then you list all of your tactics. But once you understand how PR works, you can see how that would be confusing. Because the point of having an objective is that you have certain strategies that go with that objective. And tactics support certain strategies. So you want the audience to get the picture that you're painting. You guys are artisans of communication. You are the experts saying, let me come alongside of you and enhance what you're doing. And here's how it's going to work. Here's the roadmap. And if it's just kind of thrown out there, people who aren't in PR are going to look at it and not capture your vision. You want to make it easy for them. So when you lay it out, objective, strategy, tactic, strategy, tactic. Most likely, every objective should have 2 or 3 strategies. Why would that be? Because if your strategy fails and you only had 1 strategy, you're in a world of hurt. So make sure you have at least 2. I like to have 3 because I plan to fail in at least a couple ways. If you have come to see me and you've been discouraged this semester, you probably already heard this. But one of my favorite quotes is that Edison didn't find 1 way to invent the light bulb. He found 99 ways not to do it. That's how I look at PR. You're going to find ways not to do something. Those exact ways may help you on other campaigns to achieve something. But don't plan for everything to be perfect in your campaign, because it never will be. You're working with people, you're working with communication, it gets sticky, it gets messy, and that's okay. As a PR person, you're ready for that. We deal with that, and that's normal, it's expected. But you need to have backup plans. That's why every objective will have at least 2 to 3 strategies, and then a couple tactics supporting that. So it's kind of like a structure, right? If you knock one of the things out, the whole thing's not going to crumble then. Then you would put budget. You can put budget in implementation. Some people prefer to put it over there. I just put it after everything because this is where your money is going to be spent normally. Things that you're buying, people that you're hiring, different contracts that you're signing. So I put budget after that. If you want to put it in implementation, that's okay. Questions on the programming section, logistics of it, what should be included, what I'm looking for? Cool. And then we go into the implementation. Implementation is really almost like a visual of everything you just said in programming. It's putting it together. So there's so many ways you can display it, and I'll show you some examples. But here's one way. You can open up a table in Word or Excel or Pages, whatever you're using, and you can list dates along the edge, then what exactly is going to happen on that date, who's responsible for it, the kind of messaging that's going to be used, and which audience you're reaching. Because over here, you identified an audience. As you guys advance in PR, you're going to have multiple audiences targeted at several times. So you're going to have multiple objectives relating to specific audiences. When you get to the implementation, you want to understand which piece is targeting which audience that you suggested, and who's responsible, who's going to be your spokesperson, how are they going to present it. So for example, if I was going back to this increase awareness about registration, maybe I want DBC to make a message in chapel. That would target every single student audience, at least the ones who are in chapel. So the task would be speaking in chapel, the person would be DBC, the message is that registration is important. But I would also probably go to, if it was fall semester, the freshman classes that you have to take when you're here that's like a 0 unit, but everyone has to take it for 8 weeks. Those people could be spokespeople for me. That would be targeting specifically my freshman audience. And I would ask them to do it in person. I might also, hypothetically, this would be really hard, but try to get an article about it in the Chimes. Maybe I would write that. So I'd be in charge of that. The medium would be print. And I could explain the complexities behind it. Because if you remember, newspaper is a great place for complex information because it's all written down and people can refer to it. Then I might also reach out to Biola Digital, who's running Facebook, and ask them to put some things. So you can see how this would start to get very complicated. All the different ways that I'm going to reach out to my audience, who's responsible, what medium, what they're saying, and how that's related back. So you have that. But then you put in every other detail. Are you writing a press release? Are you signing a contract? Are you hiring someone? Are you needing to get information about a freelance photographer, and do they need to sign a contract? Do you need to pitch something to the CEO, and does he have to approve it before other things can happen? Do you need to visit any locations? All of that should be on here as well and relate back to everything that happened. So when you're doing it for your presentation, a lot of this will be post-dated because you've been doing things throughout the semester. Some of you are either ready to launch or it could launch later. So you'll have post-dated and pre-dated things. It'll just kind of show how it all works. It's kind of a roadmap. Any questions about implementation and what that should look like, what should be included on it? Okay, yes?
So even if you're not launching it, you would approach it with the practical?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yes.
Can you explain the theory part one more time?
Yeah, you read my mind. I was about to go into that after we cover this. I'll be right there. Any other questions? Perfect transition. The theory part. We have talked about a lot of communication theories throughout this time. Some of them work for what you're doing, some of them don't. It really depends on your client and your campaign. What happens when you start looking at something like this is you start seeing which theories you're using. Are you using a theory of media dependency? Are you really reaching out to newspapers and internet and web? And if so, how does that look? Or are you doing the diffusion adoption, where you have audiences at different stages of awareness and you're trying to move them from interest to trial to full adoption? And if so, can I see when you first introduce something and then when they're supposed to find out more and then when they're supposed to commit? Or are you perhaps doing a persuasive communication thing? Pardon me. Are you framing information? So are you sending certain perspectives at certain times to your key speakers? That'll start to come out here. And ideally, you will want to identify it. You're not going to use, this is the tricky part, guys. You're studying for something very practical. PR is very practical. I'm in the industry still. I consult. I have my clients. I don't speak to them the same way I speak in class all the time because we're using a little bit of academic language, right? So I wouldn't go up to my client and be like, we're going to use the media dependency theory kind of combined with the diffusion adoption theory. That doesn't fly. They're kind of like, okay, good, that's great. Where's my ROI? But what I would say is, there's a lot of research to support the idea that people need to be introduced to a concept and then brought along before they're going to have total buy-in. I just said the exact same thing about diffusion adoption, but in language that's used in our industry. Keep that in mind. If you're pitching to a client, use that language. But for the class, I really want you to identify during your presentation which theories you're using. You can combine it. For example, I just said media dependency, and I also put it in the vernacular of someone who would be doing it in the industry. You can easily do that. That's a good thing to learn how to do because you want to have the ammunition, so to speak, of knowing these theories because they're powerful. They give insight into how communication works. But you also never want to lose touch with how to just have a regular conversation with your clients in a way that makes sense. You guys kind of follow with that?
Yeah.
Cool, yes.
90%, are we talking to the class like they are the client or like as what our pitch would be to?
You'll talk to the class like we're your class. So you can use the names of theories and stuff like that. If you are pitching to the client and you created a piece to turn into them, I'll look at it through the eyes of a PR person and just say, oh, that makes perfect sense, industry language, great.
So when we talk, we say our client instead of you.
Yes.
Pretend like
Totally. You're speaking about your client, just presenting the idea to the class. Good question. Other questions? Okay, so we've gotten through research, programming, implementation. Evaluation can be the tricky part here. Most of you are not implementing. Some of you are going to or have the potential to. And the question is, how do you display that? What does that need to look like? Well, it always goes back to your objective first and foremost, whether you implement, whether you could implement, whether you have implemented. So you always restate your objective. When I write up an evaluation section, I put objective 1, and I say it again so people can see. And then I simply provide documentation for either how I met it or how I didn't. If I truly was going to do this, this kind of objective would need a survey associated with it, some way for me to know that people had gained awareness. Or I could measure how many people came in for academic advising, something like that. So I would provide the results of that information right after the stated objective. You will have different objectives. You just need to provide the results. Now, if you did not implement, or you could implement but haven't yet, you would provide the objective and then you would state, this is how we will measure it. We will use a survey. We will interview people. We will count tickets. We will see how many people arrived at the event. We will find how many media impressions happened after our media relations campaign. You will exactly list how you find out if this is true. You can also look at outputs. Those are additional things that's not related to the outcome. If you remember, outcome is what your audience did. It's influencing values, opinions, beliefs, or behaviors. The easier thing for PR people to do is say, we put out this many press releases, we held this many events, we had this many blog posts. That is all good information. It goes under outputs because you completely control that. There's no proof that you reached an audience. There's no proof that there was a result. You have to be able to stand behind your campaign and say, here's how you'd actually see the result for the audience, which is when you do the objective, which is an outcome. And then you can list the extra stuff you did. Sometimes, for people who are trying to organize it in their evaluation section, it's easy for them to use something like this, these 3 parts. They can look at implementation. They may say, you know what, everything was going really good until our client totally changed their mind halfway through our campaign, and that threw everything off. So at that point, it was a little rocky and we didn't get the results we wanted. That's more of an implementation thing. That's something that happened with the calendar. You could look at design. You could say, you know what, our campaign was really spot on. We reached 2 of our primary audiences, but the 3rd one actually ended up not being important, and they didn't tune in with what we were saying. So that's more of a design thing, right? The design you set up wasn't quite on with what you needed to do. Or maybe it was. Maybe you reached all of your audiences perfectly. And then you have objectives, which go straight back to the programming. You just pull them directly in. So this is what you really need to hit on, either how you evaluated it or how you would. Other areas you can talk about are the design and the implementation. Design, implementation, outputs, those are not directly related to your audience's values, opinions, beliefs, and behaviors, but they're still important. They still help give context. So they can add in, but you must talk about your objectives and how you either did or would find out those measurements from a SMART objective standpoint. Make sense? Cool. Any questions on evaluation? Okay, you guys are doing well. So let's talk about what this will look like. I have several. I'm going to just pass them around. 2 of these, one for Jamie D and one for Sugar and Spice. They're media relations campaigns that were strictly done for a class. So these ones actually never were implemented. Sometimes the ones I show you, since they're implemented, they kind of confuse people and you're saying, well, that's not us, that's not what I would do. How do I do it if I'm only presenting it for a class? These are 2 examples. So I'm just going to start passing them here and you guys can look at them as you go. Here's a Dominican Republic campaign. It was a media relations one that was done here on campus, and it was shown by a team member, so the different parts that they did. And I'll just pass that one around. This was Phoenix 5-4, done by the student-run PR agency last semester. It was a little confusing because we didn't get to implement everything we wanted, but they did a lot of research. This is a good example of how to do it. And they have all of their pieces. You want to remember that when you present something, don't just have ideas. Show the tangible outworkings. If you say you suggest a press release, do a press release. If you say a website, give a mock-up. And this is one that the student-run PR agency has done this semester for My Town Music. I actually really like the layout of this one. All of these have great points. This one to me is just really easy to see. I can tell where I'm at no matter where because it's easily labeled. So I'm never trying to figure out, okay, I know you have a great idea. What is it? I have no idea where I'm at. So this is a great example. You'll notice all of these people printed in different ways because there's different kinds of paper you can print on. So let's talk a little bit about presentation with this. Color really helps, to be honest. It makes things pop. It gives more life to what you worked on. So I would recommend printing it in color. Some people want to have it spiral bound. Some people put it in a notebook. I would definitely recommend not just stapling it together or handing me 20 loose leaf pages. That doesn't work very well. It has been done, and I love you all dearly, so I will still take it. But it doesn't reflect the professionalism that you have worked towards. And professionalism matters, presentation matters. One of the things I talk to my higher level PR classes about is the feel. When you are doing something, when you're presenting, pitching to a client, everything matters. And you try to think about the 5 senses. What are they smelling? So don't sit near anywhere a dumpster or anything like that. Make sure that no one has too strong a perfume on when you walk into the room. Think about anything that could be detrimental. Then think about sound. Then think about sight. So what are you wearing? Is there construction nearby? Is there music on when they walk into the room? Because that can be very calming. When we did the My Town music pitch, yeah, we had music because they're all about music. So you don't want just a silent room that you walk into. Well, another thing is feel. And these portfolios are different examples of how people thought through that. When someone picks something up, there's a huge difference between professionalism and just kind of put together. And like it or not, the reality is it does influence how someone perceives your work. So when you put this together, think, what is the best way for me to say this is professional quality from the moment they pick it up? They say you have 15 seconds to make an impression when you meet someone in person. The same is true for when you hand something to a client. What kind of paper? Is it shiny? Is it matte? Is it thick? Is it stained with your coffee from the day before? What is the impression? So you really want to think through that when you're putting this together. The things you want to make sure you have are here. 1, have a cover. All of these have a cover page. You'll want the cover to identify your client and identify the team members, so all of you have credit. Indexes are really helpful. You're going to end up with a lot of pages by the time this is done. It always intimidates people when I say 15 to 20 pages, but it goes by so quickly because you have a cover page, you have an index page, you have examples, you have so many little pieces that all come together that once you put it all in one spot, it's fairly large. And it's good to, 1, number the pages because that's helpful, but also have your index. And you maybe have bold points for research, programming, implementation, evaluation, and then lighter points underneath. You should have an intro. Give some context. Here's the basic gist of what we did. Here's the basic gist of our client. Just a little paragraph. Then you go into your 4 main points: research, program, implementation, and evaluation. We've kind of talked through those, what you should expect, and then there's some parameters you could look at. Your group will have a life of its own. You'll see as you look at these, everyone does it differently. Some people put their examples right in. So for example, if a tactic is provide a press release, some of these teams, right after that recommendation, put in the press release on the next page. Other people say, see Appendix A, so it would come at the end. Whatever your team does is fine. Make sure it's uniform. Because if your team is kind of breaking things up, you don't want half the people putting it right next to the tactics and strategy and half the people saying refer to the appendix, because then it just looks disjointed and that sends a message. In PR, you learn that everything's sending a message, hopefully positive messages, but everything communicates. So at the end, you'll have your index if you choose to put everything at the end. It can be helpful because sometimes it's awkward sizing when you place it by the text. Other times, depending on who your client is and what's your recommendation, the graphics fit perfectly. So it works really well to give texture. That is the printed piece. That's what you're bringing, that's what you're leaving with me so I can look over it. But day of, you need to know you need 3 basic pieces. You're gonna need your PowerPoint or your Keynote or your Prezi, some visual presentation that your team is planning to use. And that should complement all your work. Don't make it boring. I know sometimes mine have a ton of text because, again, that's the pull between professional and academic. When I work with clients, I try to have my slides hopefully have no more than 5 words on them. It's even better if I can do 1 word in a graphic that just captures their vision, because the point of you showing up is that you're valuable. The point of you coming to class is that you hold the knowledge. That is simply to compliment you. It's simply to accent what you're doing. You don't want to rely on the PowerPoint. But however you do it, make sure you have one. Make sure you have a computer and an adapter and everything ready to go so that day of, you just plug it in and there you are. Then, of course, you needed your printed RPI that we've been talking about. And each team member needs to bring an evaluation of their team members and themselves. So you can rate it, you can do whatever. But this gives me an idea of how you guys have worked together. I know what it's like to be on a team. I know it can be frustrating. So this is your opportunity to speak back into it. It is not something you include with the RPI. You hand it to me personally, so you don't have to show your whole team your evaluation of your whole team. You're handing it to me. So those 3 pieces are important. Plus, you're coming dressed professional because you're representing all of the work you've done this semester. Does that kind of make sense? What is included in the RPI and what you need for your presentation? Okay, any questions on those parts? Okay, so you guys seem like you're pretty on track with all of this. Does anyone have any concerns overall? Because again, I'm offline on weekends, so I know that's really hard when you guys email me on the weekend, but also this is too big to leave sitting there. It will be very evident if you've waited. So you don't want to wait, you want to move ahead. Yes?
Would it be possible for us to use your adapter if we have a Mac?
It may, it doesn't work on all Macs, so I prefer you to make sure you have one that does work just because it's been very tragic for some students. Yes?
You know the examples you handed out in class?
Yeah.
Do you have it like online or?
No, not for most of them. Some of them, but these ones, most of them I don't.
If we wanted to find like an online example, do you know where we could look?
An online example of those, I could see some of them. These are some of the better ones. So I could send you some, but they're not going to be this quality. So you could shoot me a note and I can send you some, but they won't represent these ones. Yeah. Great question though. Other questions? Okay, so let's just be candidly honest. How many of you feel pretty confident with where you're at? Okay. Okay, so there's like combined half hands, there's like 3. Okay, we're gonna take some time today. Our guest speaker is coming, but I really, really want you to shine. I have to tell you, last week, you guys know I've been here, this is only my 2nd year, right? So I came on board, I'm forming the PR agency, and PR program. Yes, I consider you all part of an agency. And one of my passions is to see us be the best of the best. I'm just very competitive, but I also believe that we can do it. I think the education you're receiving is quality enough. Last week, the capstone PR class had off-campus professionals come and they had to sit in front of a panel. They got grilled. They had to present their own PR campaign, one that they had done on their own. So what you're doing in a group, they did by themselves, stood in front of this panel and explained everything and defended their ability to do PR. I was terrified. It's the first time that I've really been like, okay, here you go, look at our PR students. Usually I kind of stand in the middle and I edit everything and I play kind of referee. Not because I don't trust you guys, but because I'm new and I'm wanting to make sure we're good. First time last week, they blew them out of the water. The panel was so impressed with Biola PR. One of the people said, because they have comments, said, you know, the best compliment I can give you is I want to hire you at my agency. Another person said that they were an adjunct at another local school, which I shall not name, and they said that if we compared side by side, our students would blow them out of the water. Of course, I'm not going to name them because they're a teacher there, and that would not be nice. But to me, that says we're doing good things. You guys are getting great education. It's competitive. So I know some of you have been like, oh, like a program plan, not really fun. You're right, it's not fun, but it's the framework for how to do PR. It's how to put it together so that when you get to those 400 level classes or when you're walking into an interview, you're not going to sit there and talk about an RPI with them. That's just not what you do. But you know how it works. You know how to do a campaign. If they asked you on the spot, which they sometimes do in interviews, here's a situation, what would you come up with a strategy for? You would know what a strategy is. You'd know how to say, here's a strategy, here's the tactics that would support it. You wouldn't confuse those two. If they ask you for an objective, you would give them one they can measure. one of the biggest mistakes of PR people is to throw out objectives out there that you can't measure. That's why we use things like SMART, just to help us remember. It's not that PR is all about the how do you make an RPI. It's PR is about knowing how to work with people and how to make these processes happen. And you guys have that. So these final projects to me are an opportunity for you to simply illustrate, hey, we get it. We've done so much work this semester. You guys have moved ahead on terminology, on theories, on what the industry needs. All of those objectives we've had, I see you guys have grown in so much. And this project is your chance to say, here it is. And hopefully, if you do a good job, it's something that you then add to your portfolio. You then keep with you when you go into these interviews. So years from now, or next year if you want, and you're in that capstone class, you have a lot of options to pick from when you're saying, which campaign am I going to use to defend to an agency?
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.